Hello folks, welcome to the channel once again. Excuse me while I kiss the sky. Mm, Nothing like a nice espresso late in the afternoon. I hope everyone's doing well today. Here is a very hot day. It's in the 90s. These are also very hot times though, in the life of this world and civilization, aren't they? One of the things I think that makes these times most hot is the fact that so much manipulation and deception is going on. There used to be a show on called Information Wars where the person on the show lied so much and was so heartless that he actually got sued by people because their children had gotten killed, shot, and murdered in a school, and he lied and said they made it all up. He didn't care about their feelings. He didn't care about the fact that it happened. He didn't care about the fact that they needed help and support. No, he lied. Just for some sick reason, probably supporting the gun manufacturers. And this one got caught because he did it so often. But there are many, many more people who are just like him who will never get caught because they have the right connections or they're smart enough not to go too far. That is the problem with the world that we find ourselves in today. And the problem is that when one finds oneself in a nest of vipers or manipulators, especially if one is a decent person, it can change one's view of the world. It can make one paranoid and afraid to be open, to share themselves. It can make one afraid to be vulnerable enough to open their heart and love. That's the world we find ourselves in today. And I'm sure that many of you have been in situations where there were horrible bullies, horrible manipulators, and liars, people who betrayed you and probably injured your very soul. But there is hope, you see. There is a light at the end of the tunnel they have driven you into, and that light is not a train. That light is the reality that takes place when you realize that these are not truly the majority of people. They are a very few people all joined together in gangs, making a lot of noise, shouting, banging on pots and pans, blowing themselves up like a little cat in the alley to make themselves bigger. And the only power they have is the illusion that they are bigger and all powerful. But the truth is, you see, that we as human beings are very powerful, especially when it comes to dealing with the hurt and the pain that takes place inside of us. We can heal ourselves. We can pray, we can meditate, we can choose the paths that will keep us healthy and make us stronger. The first step, though, breaking free of the lies and manipulation that exists in almost every type of education that we have received. These systems will tell you how the world is from a scientific basis. They'll say that everything is material and nothing exists except that which they can measure. And then when something new comes up that they can measure, they'll admit that it existed all the time. But they expect us to just believe them this time, even though for the 10,000 times they said that it wasn't real, they still told us they were spouting the truth. That's the world we find ourselves in. A world of manipulation and a world of excuses. But there is a knowledge that it goes beyond all of these things. It's a knowledge that comes from the heart when one has cleansed one's heart and one's mind enough to be able to experience the truth and to experience all of the things that one is going through fully and completely in the present, drawing on the past not to escape to it, no, but to understand what the underlying issues and underlying thoughts and ideas are working in our subconscious, trying to shape our future. And when we know what is there in the subconscious, in the shadow from the past, we know how we are being influenced in our thoughts and ideas and way of seeing the world today. And when all of that becomes conscious, we as human beings, we as choice makers have the power to change those things. Each time they come up, we can choose what path we can take. But we're told by the scientists that we cannot do that. Sigmund Freud said that you had to come to him an hour a day, laying on the couch, facing away from him, and you had to come there for 3, 4, 5, or 6 years in order to heal yourself of any mental traumas. Later, when people could not afford this, of course, they began to do it in different ways, a shorter amount of time, but still expensive, and you always had to come to them. Why do you believe that? Before psychologists, people had injury and people had trauma, and the wise people within their nations and villages and tribes and their religions learned how to deal with their trauma without using psychotherapy or psychoanalysis. But we think that that's the only way to deal with things now, because we've been told that. We've been told what to expect step by step as we go through this process, and if we don't go through this process, we're told that we're just fooling ourselves, bypassing the hurt and the injury. Well, I would like to tell you this. There is a path, there is a way where we can relieve ourselves of the stress and the pain and the suffering, and instead of struggling over and over and over again to get to that point, we can get to that point first and then work backwards from a place of clarity to heal all of that brokenness that still exists within the ego. We don't have to wait to live beautiful and wonderful lives. We can begin by doing that now, by awakening to who we are, and when we are awake, when we can see clearly, we can begin to go back to the past and understand the past and unwind the hurt and the pain and the suffering from the past, and more importantly, we can see how we can take those hurts and make it into something good, something wonderful, something that strengthens instead of destroys, and something that makes us wounded healers instead of people fighting and kicking and stomping in order to protect the wounded parts of themselves. The thing about being a wounded healer is that one is not still bleeding all over the place when you're trying to heal people. You see, one has been healed. They have the scars, they have the injuries, they have the traces of the hurt, but they have overcome their power over them. And now they use those things in order to understand people and in order to relieve them so that they don't need to go through all of the pain and suffering that we the healers go through. In all of this, I guess I am basically saying, be careful how you hear. That is even an old biblical saying. Be careful how you hear, because whoever has, more will be given, and whoever thinks they have, even the little bit they think they have will be taken away. How does this apply to today? If we think that we have knowledge about our truth of being, and we go blindly listening to other people and we hear things that affirm what we already think, and we don't have it, we'll lose a little bit of a connection with the divine that we already have. But if we have the connection with the divine and we hear things that lead us not to pumping up ourselves, but bring us face to face with the mirror of truth, we will gain more. We will polish the mirror, as the Taoists and Buddhists say, until we see a reflection of the divine in that mirror, meaning that we will see our true selves, because that is what we are, reflections of the divine under all of the pain, all of the suffering, all of the manipulation and misinformation and miseducation. There is still that bright light that shines like the morning sun, that glows softly like the full moon caressing the earth and bringing forth warmth, controlling the tides of love. That beautiful moon standing out against the backdrop of stars, puncturing through the darkness of the night, just like each and every one of us, like stars, puncture through the darkness of fear, puncture through the darkness of anger, puncture through the darkness of manipulation and lies, and become guideposts for those who would always go out and seek the truth. Seek the truth in love. Thus comes the saying that you are the light of the world, but you're even more light than that. You are the light of the universe. But you must choose to do that, to be that. And it's hard to make the right choices when we are fed lies, warped views of the world, shown images, and given thoughts from the time we are born until we reach an age of reasoning. My guess is that if you're watching this video, your age of reasoning has already come, and it is time for you to accept the truth. There is nothing in your head that is your enemy that needs to be destroyed. Even those painful and those negative voices inside you are voices that are trying to protect you from the pain and suffering in this world. And some of them have it wrong. They're trying to protect you in a twisted way, a warped way that is more destructive. All that is necessary is to come to a point where we have a deep understanding of who and what we are, and where we can reflect on those voices, and then we notice that when we hear them, when we encounter them and interact with them, they will begin to change. They will become our allies. They will support us. They will push us forward towards growth and enlightenment. They will be willing and able to go into the light with us and lead us into the light and give us the strength and courage to do so. But first we must realize who and what we are. We must realize, you see, that we are the same thing that God is, God the divine is. God is the embodiment of love, justice, and peace, even as we are, and everything else except twisted human beings who choose death over life is pushing us towards opening our eyes and realizing who we are. When we see the world in this way, we see the world as it truly is, not the world painted as a horrific, monstrous thing that we have to resist and fight and kill in order to survive. We learn to do the dance, the great dance, As we dance with God and Goddess and creation and love, we do that dance. We dance with the fears and the tears and the sadness. We dance and we dance and we dance until we become part of that great dance, that spiral dance that set the stars ablaze, that created the planets, the moons, the earth, and every living thing that exists, every chemical, every element. We become part of that dance, and when we become a part of that dance, we realize that we are not just human beings. We are immortal beings moving through time and space, and at the end of this great movement, we return back to who and what we always have been. The very light and life energy that lies within and beyond this creation that has made this world, that maintains this world, and has made many different worlds and dimensions through eternity. We can remember who we are right now. We don't need some horrific thing to happen, a car accident or a near-death experience or a terminal illness. We can do it right now. All we have to do is make that choice, and as we meditate, you see all of these elements I was talking about, the positive and negative, will work together in order to support us and to push us forward so that we can return to the source, to love, to the very source that we come from and we return to. We are all like rivers leading to the ocean of love. May our journeys be wonderful. May your journey be wonderful. Namaste. If you want to learn more about us, visit us at www.nextstepcoaching.mysite.com. You can find out more about us. We have a lot of spam, so sometimes we don't answer phone calls, but if you text us or send us an email and let us know that you're responding to this video or something on the website, we will be glad to be in contact with you. You can leave a comment, subscribe, and hit the bell. And most of all, the best thing for you to do right now is to sit, to look inside, and to see that beauty and that wonder and that grace called you.